super intelligent students that you are, and I do not mean that sarcastically, even though all of you are hearing that sarcastically and are going home and saying, I actually don't mean that. You are intelligent young people. You could read this entire boxed in set of instructions and could actually do this without me saying a word. But I like to talk. So you're going to sit through it and listen. Now, even though you could do it, a great many would be like, and wouldn't bother. So I'm going to make you do it this way. I'm going to use different colors, though, because that's always fun. The first thing we're going to do will be written in red. You can all read that question. Let's read it. Don't need to read it out loud. It's not Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Go ahead and read. All right. Now, if there was an issue there, the issue usually comes up at that phrase. What do you mean to solve for a variable? Because up until now, solving for a variable meant you got x equals 4. That's what it meant to solve. But, of course, you can only do that if there is only one variable. What to solve for one variable means, it really means isolate one variable. Now, sometimes there's choices, but I have given you this lovely hint. Choose a letter, and remember the letter is the variable with a coefficient of 1 or negative 1. So, which of these two equations has a variable that falls into those parameters? Is it the first one or the second one? It is the first one. And I tell you to solve, which is code for isolate one of the variables. What variable will we isolate there? X. Now we could work this with isolating y, but then we would get a fraction, and then there would be a long line up to the bathroom because you all would lose your bladder control, right? Because you're all scared of fractions. So we are going to isolate x, and we are going to do that in red. What would have to move to isolate x? Minus 4y would have to move over here and become what? X equals 4y minus 1. Agreed? Does everybody see what I did there? Don't read ahead in the chat in the list. Does everybody see what I did there? X is now isolated. Now, if you were to read that as a sentence, you would say x equals 4y minus 1. And equals has a synonym in English, right? X is 4y minus 1. Everybody cool? Okay. Now, next, in blue, take the new equation. What do you mean new equation? Well, we just made one. Isn't that new? Is that equation anywhere in the question written that way? Not written that way. So we have a new equation, don't we? Take that new equation and substitute it into the other equation. What? That's crazy talk, except it's not. The other equation right there says 3x. But we know that x is what? So instead of writing 3x, what do I write? Because that equals x, according to what we just did. Plus 5y equals 31. Now, all of you should be looking at this and saying, I already know what to do next. Because the reason you couldn't solve that is there were two variables, right? What now has happened? There is only one variable. So in green, we will solve for the remaining variable. What do I do with this? To get what? equals 31. Now what do I do? Which is 17y minus 3 equals 31. And then what?
You take the negative 3 from the other side plus 3.
And then what?
You isolate y divided by 17 equal to divided by 17.
Yes? Yes. All right. Now, in gray, do we now know what y is? What don't we know? Except we do know what x is because x is 4y minus 1. X equals 4, not y, 2. Because y is 2 minus 1. What is 4 times 2? Minus 1. What is the ordered pair that will give us the answer? 7, 2. Mr. Myers, did I do it right? Did I do it right? Can you please check my work and make sure I did it right? Please, because I need gratification and I need justification and I need validation. Please check it before you mark it and mark it wrong so I know I'm doing it perfectly. And what will I say? No, of course I won't. Why would I check it? Because isn't that an X? And isn't that a Y? And isn't that an X? So isn't that 7? And isn't that a Y? So isn't that 2? And isn't 7 minus 4 times 2, which is 7 minus 8, negative 1? So why would you ever come to me to ask for me to check your answer? Right? Except, of course, you should check both, shouldn't you? Isn't 3 times 7, 21? Isn't 5 times 2, 10? Isn't 21 plus 10, 31? So did I do it right? So in the time it takes you to walk all the way up to me and say, Mr. Mom, did I do it right? Did I do it right? Could you have done 5 more questions? Yeah. Because there's no need to ask if you did it right, because the question tells you if you did it right. Just like every algebra question you will ever get in the entirety of your math career. Because the answer is always X equals something, or Y, or Q, or P, or fish, or peace sign, or dollar sign, or whatever other symbol you use. And then you take that answer and you put it back in. There is never a need to ask somebody else if you have done math correctly, because the math will tell you if you did it correctly. Yeah? Yeah. Let us go on to this question. Which equation will I use for the red section where I decide? I will use the first one. Why will I use the first one? Because y is isolated. Or not isolated. Y has no coefficient. We will isolate y to get. Now remember, when you move this over here, it is going to become negative, yes? And a great many of you insist on putting your negative or your variables first, and you will write negative 2x plus 3. That's ugly. It will mess some of you up. So I submit you write this as y equals 3 minus 2x. It's the same thing, and it's just prettier. Okay? I don't care if you do it or not. But if you put a negative there, at some point, you may bring that negative to this 3 when you're distributing or something. Okay? I don't ever like to start with a negative. Okay? But it doesn't matter. You're welcome to if you wish. So that was the red step. The blue step is to take what we now know and substitute it back into the other equation, yes? So the other equation is 4x plus 3y equals 1. All right. 4x plus 3, not y. 3 minus 2x equals 1. And then I move to my green color and I solve for x. So I distribute plus 9 minus 6x equals 1. Then what? negative 2x plus 9 equals 1. Now, I just said I don't like to have a negative there. So could I have written 9 minus 2x? If I want. Then what?
You minus 9 on both sides, which will equal negative 8.
Then what?
Then you divide it by negative 2 to isolate x, which will equal
4. And then I go to the gray ink, because I now know what x is. What do I not know?
You don't know why.
I don't know y, so I go back up here, because this equation says y is this. Y equals 3 minus 2 times 4. 2 times 4, which is?
8. So 3 minus 8 is negative 5.
And what is my ordered pair?
It is 4 and 5.
Kid, did we do it right? Did we do it right? Is 8 minus 5 3? Yeah? Is 16 minus 15 1? So did we do it right? Yeah, we did. All right. Turn the page over. Tell me what's weird about 190. There's no 1. Right? So if you have just been following steps, your job right now would be to find one of those variables and isolate it, yes? So if you were just following steps, you're already starting to do algebra, aren't you? Okay. If you are understanding what is going on, you might be looking slightly suspiciously at that situation. Why? Because they're both 4x, aren't they? Isn't this 4x equals 2 minus 5y?
Yeah.
And isn't, and I'll change shades of red because I want to keep it red, isn't this 4x equals negative 3 plus 20y?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if 4x equals that, and 4x equals 4x equals that, what do you know about the pink equation and the blue equation?
Well, you don't have to divide them by 4.
You don't got to do any dividing, do you? Because that pink equation equals the blue equation, doesn't it? So I could go straight to solving for y here, couldn't I? Because 2 minus 5y equals negative 3 plus 20y. Does everybody see what I did there? Because these were the same, I can make them both equal that, which automatically makes them equal each other. You all know that little handy bit of logic, yes? I've showed it to you before just to make sure. If A equals B and B equals C, what do we know about A and C? They are equal. Automatically, because they both equal B. Now that we're here, we would simply solve. I would bring the 5 over here to get 25y equals, I would bring that over there to be 5, and y would equal 5/25. But of course, Mrs. Bad Crumble would never leave that. She would make it that. And then what would we do?
Then you put it into
Where can we put that new piece of knowledge, which will be done in gray ink? RJ, was that like a one-man wave?
I just did like the whole question, and it really hurt my head.
Okay.
That question really hurt my head. I probably did it in like a really inefficient way, and that's why it really hurt my head.
I see. Where can I put that? Back into which equation, Connor? I would use the top one because the top one has a 5 and I've got a 1/5. So 4x will equal 2 minus 5 times 1/5. What happens to those two 5s? Cancel out. Now I have 4x equals 2 minus 1, which is what? 1. So x equals what? 1/4. What is the ordered pair? 1/4 and 1/5. Are those cardinal points? No, but is that the exact answer? Would that make it a lot easier to have done that question 4b? Yeah. Do I check it? Of course I check it. What's 4 times a quarter? 1. What's 5 times a fifth? 1. What's 1 plus 1? 2. Nice. I'm glad nobody paused on that one. What's 4 times a quarter? 1. Good. Nobody paused that time. There was a bit of a pause the first time I asked what 4 times 1/4 was. What's negative 20 times a fifth? Negative 4. What's 1 minus 4? Negative 3. Did we do it right? Yeah, buddy. Could we do this even if they were sick, ugly decimals? Yeah, because what would we do? We'd just sub it back in. Right? If you can do algebra, can you solve systems? Yeah, buddy. Now, turn the page over, and you see 8 systems. You get no reward for solving those 8 systems except the feeling of success. But if you turn on to the next page, yeah, you will get a funny joke when you solve these systems. And let me tell you, this is a funny one. Now, I know there's one clown in the class that is already Googling this riddle so they will know the answer. I don't like that. That makes me furious. Because they say the answer to the other kids, and the other kids write out the answer, and then they start doing what you all do, flipping to the answers, going back to the work, and trying to reverse engineer it, which is completely useless. Do the math, and then when you're asked to do math, you'll be able to do math. This is not flip to the answers and check the back of the book 10, right? This is pre-diploma foundations and pre-calculus mathematics 10. The puzzle sheet part of it. They can do the math, but moving the letters to solve the answer, that is where they screw up. So, I know, it's true. And the other thing they then, of course, like to do is when they get 4 or 5 of the letters down there, they start guessing the letters and not doing the math. Again, useful in math class, because this is pre-diploma, guess the letters 10. Except it's not. It's pre-diploma, blah, 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 math 10. Okay? Now, of course, I always like to do the first one to make sure it's already isolated for you. You will notice a great many of them are. Y equals 2x, so x plus 2x equals 12, 3x equals 12, x equals 4, y equals 8. Then I go to my list, I find 4, 8 right there. 1 gets H-E. H-E. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. How many, who's Googled the riddle answer already? Come on, don't lie.
I swear it on with me.
I have first two letters. That's all.
I have the first 2 letters. I just gave them to you. First 4 letters?
Yeah.
Nice. Go.